Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Happy February. Today's video is going to be my January wrap up. We read 12 books in January, which is super exciting, and I'm really excited to talk to you about all of them. Most of these books actually I read in reading vlogs, so I will link them both in the cards. I am going to be talking about my thoughts on these books, let you know whether I would recommend them or not, and without further ado, let's get into the video. January was a pretty good reading month. I read a lot of good books. I only got 1 5-star, but I read 4 books on my top TBR for the year. I read 2 classics. I didn't read any nonfiction, but I enjoyed the books that I read. I feel like it was a pretty good reading month. Okay, we're gonna go in chronological order here. So the first book I read was People We Meet on Vacation. I loaned my copy out to my friend after I finished it. This was a reread because the movie came out, if you didn't know. But I read it like 4 years ago, so I wanted to reread it before the movie came out, and I'm so glad I did. It was such a fun reread. I love a best friends to lovers story. I'm surprised I didn't love it as much the first time I read it. Like, that one was always my bottom Emily Henry book, but it was really fun. I rated it a 4.5. I really enjoyed it. Would definitely recommend. If you haven't, the movie was really fun. That was also good, but definitely would recommend that one. The next book, this was my only 5-star of the month. It was perfect, and I think that this one is going on my best books literally I've ever read ever. Like, honestly, like top 5 books I've ever read. Amazing. I did a lot of annotating, as you can see. There were so many beautiful quotes in here. Frederick Bachman just has like such a way with words. He's so incredible and talented and amazing, and I think everybody should read this book. Everybody at least should read Frederick Bachman. I think he's one of the best authors ever. This is a book about a hockey town, but it's also about relationships and parenthood and just the messiness of life. That's what Frederick Bachman writes about, and he does such a good job putting these deep, intense feelings, emotions, experiences into such few words. I can't wait to read the rest of this series. I'm saving them because I don't want it to be done, but I love Frederick Bachman so much. So 5-star, but really like 5 bajillion million trillion stars. These next books I read in my 24-hour reading vlog. So the next book I read was The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I really enjoyed the One Dark Window duology. This one I liked. It took me a little while to get into. It still had all of the elements of a Rachel Gillig story of like interesting fantasy world, and I really liked the characters. They were unique. This one I had a harder time connecting with the characters than I did in One Dark Window. I love the gargoyle guy in this book. He was so cute, and he really added to the plot. This one I rated a 4.5. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it. I'm really excited for the next book to come out later this year. I do think I liked the One Dark Window duology more, but it was because I liked the second one more. So I'm wondering if I will feel that way after I read the next book of this series. 4.5 stars. Would recommend this one. This is the next book I read. I rated this one a 3.5. It was not my favorite. It was very like millennial vibes. That's why I didn't like it that much. I definitely think that this one, it just wasn't my favorite. It's a magical realism book about this guy that goes back to his hometown and goes to this bookstore he used to work at, travels back in time, but sees the younger version of himself before he had transitioned, and that like queerness aspect of it was interesting, but I have a hard time with time travel, magical realism, and also just the midlife crisis of it all in this book was not for me. It was cute and fun, but not my favorite. I don't really think I would recommend this one. Then I read The Great Divide. This one was awesome, and I rated it a 4.75. It didn't quite give me 5-star feelings. I'm being really picky about 5 stars. This is a historical fiction book set around the turn of the century about the construction of the Panama Canal, which is history that I knew nothing about before I read this book. I feel like I learned a lot. I loved how she followed a variety of characters and how all of their stories sort of wove together, and how we got different perspectives on this part of history. I really love when a historical fiction does that, because you kind of get to see it from all angles, different angles. She's a really talented author, and I really enjoyed this one, and I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a historical fiction fan. But yeah, 4.75, definitely one of my favorites of the month. Then I finished Pride and Prejudice. I really liked this one. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. This was one of the 2 books from my personal curriculum fancy book club that I did with my friend Tenny this month, and we read this in pieces and then watched the BBC special show as we were reading it, and then we watched the movie. Fantastic way to do it. This was funny. The characters were great. It was definitely like Bridgerton vibes. Like if you are really loving Bridgerton right now, I would definitely recommend this one. The audiobook is great also. I highlighted a lot of stuff, but I have to go and put it in my physical copy because I mostly read it on my Kindle, but definitely would recommend this one if you're looking for a classic that's like a little bit easier to get into. I really enjoyed this. I rated it 4 stars. Next up was The Will of the Many, and this one was disappointing to me. I rated it a 3.5, which I feel like is really controversial. The reason I read this was it was the highest rated book on my Goodreads TBR, and the world was a little confusing. Like there were so many names. It took me a while to get into the book. I really didn't like the first person narration in this one, and the way that I explained it in my reading vlog was that this was first person in a way that was trying to be third person. Like it was too descriptive to be in somebody's head, and I think that's when first person kind of doesn't do it for me. I don't really care about the character. He was just a guy. Like I really just didn't connect to this one. I didn't think the writing was that good. It was too long, and it did end with kind of a twist. I am interested to see how the next one goes. I do think I will like that one a little bit better. I already kind of forget most of what happened, and I just read this like 2 weeks ago. It didn't really stick with me. Contrary to popular opinion on this one, didn't love it, but this book was not for me. But I do see that it is for some people. Like I said, if you liked Red Rising, I think you would like this one. There are things to be enjoyed about this book, I can tell, but it just was not for me. Then I read The Extinction of Irina Ray, which was the lowest rated book on my TBR, and I really liked this one. It was a really interesting concept. Basically, it was about an author, and she always invites her translators to her like house in the woods in Poland, and they all translate her book into different languages, and this time she invites them and she's like kind of teasing what the book is going to be, and then she disappears. And so the rest of the book they're trying to find her, but they also are they have this very cult-like attitude about her. Like every time they're around her, they don't eat any meat, they don't drink any alcohol. Like there are very specific things. Those are pretty broad things, but there's some other very specific things that they do just because of the way she is, and they follow her so intensely and they're obsessed with her. She only lets them translate her work. Like it is very weird, the relationship that they have with her. I really liked the way that that was told. Yeah, the stuff about language was cool. There was a lot of stuff about like fungi, and like I think that was what her book was about, so some of that was interesting. And then I liked the way that it ended. It was kind of like funky. This book was really funky, so if you're into funky lit fic, like definitely read this one. But yeah, it's not for everybody. I can tell that it wouldn't be for everybody, but I found it really interesting and I really enjoyed it. I rated it 4 stars. Then I read Headshot, which was a pretty little book. It was kind of short stories. They all wove together. It followed this one women's boxing tournament. I feel like it was trying to do too much. Like it could have been a single short story. It was very repetitive. I liked some of the writing in there. I liked the way that we followed the different characters and how they were talked about, but after a while I was like, okay, like get to the point. Like it was just a little too repetitive, which is definitely tough when the book is only like 200 pages, but it was a good read. I'm glad I read it. Obsessed with the cover, which is one of the main reasons that I read it, and I rated it a 3.75. Then an even shorter book, I read The Time Machine. This was my other book in my personal curriculum, like fancy book club, which this month, I have said this before, but this month's theme was genre definers. So Pride and Prejudice was the first romance. This is one of the first sci-fis. I think the one that everybody always says is Dune. We were not gonna be reading that book, so we read this one instead. It is a story about a man who basically, like they all go to this dinner party and he's like, guys, I think I've figured out how to time travel. Like I made this machine. And they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. And he's like, okay, well, I'll see you at dinner in a week. Then you go to the dinner party in a week, and he's like comes in and he's like got dirt all over him and he's all roughed up, and he's like, oh my god, you're not gonna believe this story. And then he tells him the story of the time travel experience that he had, and he traveled into the future and he meets these 2 different types of people, and it was interesting. H.G. Wells was definitely trying to say something with it. I'm not exactly sure what it was. I was reading a little bit about his biography, and he was definitely very politically outspoken in his time, so that's what I mean by like I think he was trying to say something, but again, I'm not exactly sure what it was. But it was less than 100 pages. It was cool to read that sort of story, and also the audiobook that I read was amazing. I can't remember who read it, but I'll put the guy's name on the screen. It was very fairy tale like, and I really enjoyed his telling of it. It was wonderful. So I read that one. Also, I just realized before I read that one, I read Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy, which was her new book. Really, really good. This basically follows 17, then she turns 18-year-old girl who falls in love with her English teacher, and she is like obsessed with him in a way that is gross. Like, it is written to be kind of like icky, and I keep saying that it was like a train wreck that I couldn't look away from. Like, I was reading it and I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe she's like saying these things and doing these things, but also like I have to keep reading to find out what is going to happen to her. It was really intense, this like relationship that they had, and she like low-key kind of coerces him into it. But yeah, it was really interesting and I thought it was really well written. Jeanette McCurdy definitely has a writing style, which is interesting to see with just having written a memoir and then a fiction book. Like, I could tell what her writing style was from those two books. I'm really excited to see what she writes next. It's really different, her writing style. It's very blunt, and I think that worked really well for this story, and it worked really well for her memoir. So I'm really excited to see what else she writes. I think she's super talented, and I would definitely recommend this one if you can get your hands on a copy. I think she reads the audiobook too, which I didn't listen to at all, but if you're interested in that, I think that would be cool. And I rated that one a 4.5. And then the last book I read, which is going to be in my video next week, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that, but I read the third Bridgerton book. This is Benedict's book, and I've done this for the past couple seasons of Bridgerton, is read the book before watching the show. It's been such a wonderful way to experience Bridgerton, and I just love them. I love all the characters in this. I'm really, really excited to watch the show. I'm gonna watch it today probably, and this was a very Cinderella story. Like, the main character, the main girl, her dad dies, and then she's stuck with the stepmother and the stepsisters, and they treat her really badly, and then she falls in love with one of the Bridgertons, and she's like, but we can never marry. And Benedict, he was really acting up in this book. Like, honestly, he's one of my favorite characters in the show. I really didn't like him in this book. He was being like really, what's the word when you like pretend to know more than somebody else? He was being kind of pretentious, isn't the word. He had this attitude of like, I know better than you, and he was obsessed with her, but then also like, I didn't really love the way he treated her through most of this book. The Bridgerton men, they yearn, and that's so wonderful. And also Violet Bridgerton, the mom, if you're not familiar, she is an icon. She's such a wonder. She's like the best mother ever. She's so good in the show. She's so great in the books, and I just love her so much. So anyway, I'm really excited to watch the show. It was fun to read this book. They're very silly and quick, and I would recommend this one, especially if you enjoy the show, even if you've already read the show, because I have retroactively read them, and that is enjoyable also. Those were all 12 books that I read in January. Let me know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts are on them. Would love to chat. Thank you guys for watching all the way until the end, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, friends.